Chapter 111, Episode 22, Three Promises 3. I could see Olympus's answer from Usanga's expression. She became red and then paled. Based on Usanga's eyes, I thought I was too hasty in bringing up the story. That Dr. Sasai. I wondered what she had heard to make her hesitate while watching me. I felt sorry for some reason. Can you tell me what the sponsor said? Sparks flew from Usanga's body. Ariadne seemed to be running wild. I waited a bit until the situation calmed down. I hadn't realized the aftermath of the 3 questions and answers would be so large. The sparks soon subsided, and Usanga spoke in a mixed voice. The father of the rich knight isn't someone who can be easily met. The father of the rich knight. It was the modifier given to King Hades, one of the 3-head gods of Olympus. One of the 3-head gods of Olympus. He resided in a famous place that the 12 gods of Olympus couldn't enter. Hades was far too great for Ariadne to contact him. I quickly thanked her. Thank you, Usanga Sasai. By the way, Dr. Sasai. The smart Usanga probably already knew that the father of the rich knight was Hades. She had a vague idea of why I was looking for Hades. The story of Orpheus, who visited the underworld in order to revive his wife Eurydice, was a famous myth in South Korea. Is it possible? Usanga wondered. As a rule, resurrecting the dead was impossible. I was subjected to the probability correction of the king of no-killing effect, but in most cases, there was no such correction. It was the same for Shin Yusong. If resurrection was possible, then Yu Jonghyuk wouldn't have needed to regress. Yet if I could somehow obtain her soul. I can't tell you the details right now. I'm sorry. I didn't want to speak about my future plans in a situation where the constellations were staring at me. There were many constellations who disliked me due to the previous situation. I threw the bait, and now I had to wait and see if they bit. The important thing was to be patient. I looked at the people around me and opened my mouth. Shall we organize things? Then my party members approached me one by one, as if they had been waiting. Shin Yusung and Lee Gilyung were with Lee Hyunsung, while Lee Jihai stood in a distant place with a slightly sulky expression. I heard the voice of a low-grade Dakibai. I am the Dakibai, Youngi, who will temporarily take charge of the compensation settlement. He was a newbie Dakibai and spoke in a slightly stiff voice. I will now settle the addition compensation for the 5th scenario. Perhaps all the higher-level Dakibis had disappeared. You have received the Elaine Forest's vital energy. People caught the small fruit that fell from the air. This is the most popular recovery item in the Star Stream. Even if you are seriously injured, you can recover quickly by eating this and sleeping. It was the first time I had seen such a polite Dakibai, and it gave me a feeling of resistance. Then Dakibai talked to me and some other people. Additional compensation for the key contributors will be given this evening. Thank you for all your hard work. I hope you cheer up in the following scenarios. The voice disappeared and I watched all the people holding the fruit. Characters I didn't know would be dead and some people would be dying right now. Still, we survived. The party members weren't sure to be grateful or sad. Once this happened, someone was bound to act as the representative. I stared at them and slowly opened my mouth. Everyone, you have suffered. The moment when nothing was decided only remained for a moment. Sadness was sadness, and happiness was happiness. If we made decisions, then at least these moments would remain meaningful. You really struggled. Relief slowly filled the party members' faces as I didn't say anything about rewards. They deserved it. Lee Jihai was the one who spoke first. By the way, it was really shocking, Ajasi. You looked cooler than Master for a moment. I acknowledge you. Then Lee Hyunsung and Jung Heewon also opened their mouths. It was wonderful. I felt refreshed. These people, this was all they wanted to say to me. A wry smile appeared on my face as they started making a fuss. The biggest crisis of the beginning scenarios was over and Seoul was protected. For the time being, Seoul wouldn't be threatened until a few scenarios had passed. Dr. Sasai also suffered. Usanga stared at me and smiled brightly. Maybe this was the reward given to me. There was the sound of something hitting me, and Shin Yusung placed her forehead against my side. Lee Gilyoung was somewhat disgruntled, but he didn't say anything. I placed my hand lightly on Shin Yusung's head. Yes, this as well. In the evening, the additional compensation for the main contributors began. There were 3 main contributors who received additional compensation. They were me, Yong Hee-won, and Yu Jong-hyuk. The additional compensation for the 5th scenario is a B-grade skill. Someone else might say that a B-grade skill as a reward wasn't right, but it was actually balanced. A low alphabet letter didn't mean the skill was useless. In addition, the scenario compensation was in the form of a free choice. In other words, I could choose the B-grade skill I wanted. There was a skill that was difficult to acquire among the B-grade skills, and I had to get it. Do you want to see the list of B-grade skills? It was a list with tens of thousands of skills. I was able to avoid a difficult choice because there was a skill I thought of from the beginning. You want to receive the B-grade skill lie detection as compensation. I nodded, and there was a faint glow as additional messages appeared. The exclusive skill lie detection has been added to the skills list. I finally obtained it. It had been really frustrating not having lie detection. I looked back and saw that Jung Hee-won was having a hard time picking something. I asked Lee Ji-hai, who was next to me, "Hey, do you know where Yu Jong-hyuk is?" He was going somewhere with Sealhwa Unni. Lee Sealhwa. Lee Ji-hai looked at me with pitying eyes, as if she knew what I was thinking. Sai, it isn't what Audiobook thinks. Really, I watched the whole time. It is completely different from the two of you, I'm certain. I had a headache. Speaking of which, it was certain that they were lovers in the second regressions, but I couldn't remember in the third regression. Yu Jong-hyuk had a long road to walk, so where the hell did he go? Was it to pick up his younger sister? The 6th scenario will start in 3 days. A system message was heard. I think I knew what Yu Jong-hyuk wanted to do. The 6th scenario was when we finally encountered incarnations from other domes. He was a restless guy, so he probably went to get some hidden skills and items that he couldn't get in the last regression. There were still some hidden scenarios in Seoul Dome. It was a bit upsetting that they would be taken away by Yu Jong-hyuk, but it was better than he eating up skills. Moreover, he needed to be stronger than he was now to make the rest of the scenarios easier. That's right. I have a message for Audiobook from Master. For me. Lee Ji-hai nodded as she grasped her sword and declared in a serious tone, "Kim Dokja, the oath period is over." My heart sank. The oath of existence. I had forgotten about it. Then swear you won't hurt me until the 5th scenario is over. If you can't do that, I really won't help you. I swear. We had made this oath. That guy, surely he hadn't left me alive because of the oath. Then I remembered strange nonsense. I won't kill you, I will hit you once. I couldn't help gulping. Surely this wasn't his plan. Was he going to learn a skill to hit me? By the way, what oath did the two of you swear? Shut up. Yes, it would somehow be okay. Above all, I had the Beast King's sensitivity used by the disaster Shin Yusung. It was also level 3. I had Way of the Wind through bookmark, and there were also my strong companions. I met Lee Ji-hai's eyes as she said, "You know that I won't help you against Master, right?" I wasn't expecting anything from you. Instead, I looked at Lee Hyun-sung. I was really impressed when he told Shin Yusung that he was part of my party, not Yu Jong-hyuk. Lee Hyun-sung gazed at me with perplexed eyes before opening his mouth. That Dokja SI. Yes. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit scared of Yu Jong-hyuk SSI. It's okay, I understand. Come to think of it, Lee Hyun-sung's strength was because of Yu Jong-hyuk. Damn it. However, it was too early to be frustrated. I also had Jung Hee-won. She was someone who didn't appear in the original novel, and I raised her with my own hands. Then Jung Hee-won scratched her head and said, "I don't know what this is about, but I won't get involved in the fight between the two of you." I won't disturb the two of you. What the hell is this? The constellation, demon-like Judge of Fire, is making a loving smile. I suddenly got a chill down my spine. What was that angel thinking? The constellation, scribe of heaven, is watching demon-like judge of fire with solemn eyes. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, has jumped and changed her expression. Dr. SI. I looked up with astonishment and saw Yu Sanga smiling calmly at me. Don't worry, Jonghyuk SSI isn't a bad person. I hope so. I'm sure that he is a good friend. I heard Yu Sanga's words and inwardly sighed. I didn't know why, but I thought of Han Soo-young at this time. Apart from me, she was the only one who knew what type of person Yu Jonghyuk was. Well, she wouldn't have protected me even if she was here. The scenario was over, but I didn't know what she was doing now. We finished organizing the surroundings and collected items. It became late in the night, and Yu Jonghyuk still hadn't returned. Instead, Yong Hee-won went to scout and returned with welcome things. I was amazed. That is still remaining. Yong Hee-won had 6 bottles of beer and soju with her. She said with a smile, have a drink as a memorial. We set up a campfire and sat down. I quickly hit Lee Jihai's hand as she grabbed a beer. You're a minor. There are no laws now. Why does it matter if I'm a minor? Drink cider with the kids. In the meantime, I took a quick swallow of the alcohol. Yong Hee-won had red cheeks as she drank while Lee Hyun-sung snored like a bear after drinking a few beers. He was weaker to alcohol than he looked. The mood. Lee Jihai secretly drank a few cups and collapsed with a red face. Surprisingly, Yu Sanga had already drank 4 bottles of soju. I couldn't see any signs of her being drunk. I'm a heavy drinker. Come to think of it, I had never seen Yu Sanga get drink at a work party. It is hard to get drunk. There was sorrow in her words. The company had a few men who wanted to do something to Yu Sanga while she was drunk. Maybe this was the first time she could drink while at ease. Isn't it okay for today? Perhaps it was because she was paler than usual that I looked away with shame. There was a lonely moon in the sky, and the cries of monsters couldn't be heard today. The other drinking groups around us were making loud noises. I wanted to drink well in this situation, but I also thought it was because of this situation that I had to drink. It was a world where everything couldn't be endured without drinking. Then small sparks appeared around my glass. The surprised Yu Sanga looked at me. I nodded. It was a good thing I hadn't drank too much alcohol. The alcohol poured down onto the ground. The constellation, god of wine and ecstasy, wants to talk to you. Olympus had finally taken the bait. Chapter 112, 3 Promises 4. The god of wine and ecstasy. The only person who used such a modifier was Dionysus, one of the 12 gods of Olympus. The constellation, god of wine and ecstasy, is humming. I couldn't hear the song, but I could see the drops of alcohol dancing to an unknown melody. The bubbles moved like they had life, forming numerous notes on the ground. The notes repeatedly moved between me and Yu Sanga. Yu Sanga looked at the notes carefully and opened her mouth. It is the puppy waltz. Can you read musical notes? A little bit. Yu Sanga cocked her head and continued speaking. Why did Chopin suddenly appear? I didn't have a clue. It was strange that Dionysus knew about Chopin in the first place. No, according to the original story, he was someone with great interest in the musical culture of later generations. It wasn't strange. The notes formed a circle and then arrows that pointed towards the remaining soju bottles. Yu Sanga wondered, is he telling us to drink more? Let's drink. There was no other way to interpret it. Yu Sanga SSI, drink only a little bit. At least one person should be sane. I needed someone to protect my teammates if I became drunk. I could wake up Lee Gil-young and Shin Yu-sung, who only drank cider, but I wanted to let them sleep well. Doc just says I can't drink well. I'm not a strong drinker. I lightly tapped my glass against hers and drank the soju. The alcohol entered my body and made me feel hot. However, the notes didn't stop. I think I should drink more. I drank a few glasses in succession. Heat rose from inside me and I could feel the redness in my face. The movements of the musical notes became more active. No, did it look more active because I was drunk? Yu Sanga smiled. It is nice to drink with you. I was a bit lonely. Thus, I drank a few more cups. I felt a bit better as a mellow smell rose. I suddenly turned around and found that I was very close to Usanga. I had obviously been quite far away. I was mistaken. The sound of breathing was harsh. I didn't know if it was my breathing or the breathing of Usanga. Usanga's shoulder lightly touched mine. Dr. SSI. Yes. It was clearly a face free of makeup, but it was hard to find any blemishes. Usanga slowly leaned towards me. Her face was getting closer and closer. A pair of quarter notes and eighth notes danced intensely around us. My heart started to beat faster at the touch against my shoulders. Wait, something was strange. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, has offset some of the drunkenness. The message popped up and my mind cleared. Yes, this couldn't happen in reality. Usanga wasn't such a person. It was only possible because this was ways of survival. I firmly held Usanga's shoulder and urged her, Usanga SSI, stay alert. The startled Usanga blinked. Her face turned red for the first time. What did I? As expected, it was Usanga's will. I was in a slightly miserable mood as I opened my mouth and spoke towards the notes hovering on the ground. Stop playing and get straight to the point. The notes all stopped at the same time. It was a serene silence, like the midnight festival had suddenly stopped. The alcohol bubbles fell to the ground and sparks flew. Then the bubbles formed one string of words. Broke the excitement. I was a bit surprised by the letters written on the ground. A few words written in bubbles on the ground might not seem great. However, it was extremely difficult for constellations to communicate with incarnations in ways of survival. It was why the constellations used the Dakibai channels to convey indirect messages. In the first place, spreading messages to Earth without the help of the Dakibus was only possible among the highest class constellations, and the consumption of probability was huge. The probability of the world was sensitive to language. I heard a faint cry from the great hall in the sky. The god of this world had noticed Dionysus' existence. The fact that he delivered a message directly without going through an incarnation meant he had confidence in his backer as expected. The 12 gods of Olympus were different. I opened my mouth in a deliberate provocation. If you are so confident, then come and talk to me in person. Then the string of words moved. I don't like those with tentacles. It is annoying to fight. If I go down myself, everyone will die. In fact, I hadn't expected anything. Soul would be turned into powder if the 12 gods of Olympus really descended. My mother died that way because of my father. Usanga saw this sentence and whispered to me, what does this mean? Maybe he is talking about the myth of his birth. As far as I knew, Dionysus' parents were Zeus and Princess Semele of Thebes. Hera was jealous of Zeus and Semele and disguised herself as Semele's nurse, encouraging Semele by saying the following. Zeus might be a fake. Ask him to show you what he really looks like when he is in Olympus. Semele was fooled and demanded that Zeus do this. Then she died from Zeus. Brilliant. Usanga listened to the story and cocked his head. Isn't it a bit different from the story I know? As far as I know, his mother isn't the Princess of Thebes. I was a bit surprised by Usanga's knowledge. I wondered if she had a level 1 degree in myths, not just Korean history. Of course, I didn't have such a degree. The string of words changed like it was amused. HRMM, you humans know me very well. As Usanga said, Dionysus' birth myth was twofold. One was the version where Princess Semele of Thebes was his mother. The other version had Hades' wife, Persephone, as his mother. I asked Dionysus, I'm curious, which of the two versions is real? It is important. There is a reason I need it to be the latter. In fact, Yonghee-won's suggestion to drink was an attempt to lure Yonghee-won. Dionysus was the son of Persephone. If this myth was correct, Dionysus could probably contact Persephone, Hades' wife. Rude human. The string trembled. Still, I like rude humans. In fact, I already knew which myth it was. Dionysus' story was mentioned in ways of survival. There used to be a human as foolishly brave as you. He was someone who played the lyre very well. He didn't end up well. I'll be different. I can open up the entrance of the underworld. The father of the rich knight doesn't like me, but the goddess of the underworld will listen to me. However, it is very dangerous, and there is no guarantee you will come back alive. It's okay. Good, I like eager people. I became nervous due to the excellent atmosphere. Dionysus was a constellation that I never knew what he was thinking. Keep this in mind. I can only give you 12 hours. If you don't come back in that time, then you can never return to the scenarios. I became dizzy and then suddenly felt drowsy. I realized what was going to happen. Damn, this was why he made me drink. I hurriedly spoke. You Sangas SI, wake up the kids. Perhaps these were my last words. A new hidden scenario has arrived. The moment I closed my eyes, the drops of alcohol seemed to be laughing. I hope the father of the rich knight will listen to you. The constellation god of wine and ecstasy is guiding your soul. You are free from the physical restraints of your body. Many colors passed through my mind, and it was like I was on drugs. There was a sharp pain from my forehead, and then a faint voice was heard. Who is this? Interesting. The soul of an incarnation is walking in the world of the constellation. You will regret it. The voice spoke negative words. Perhaps it was someone from Olympus. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, is activated. The noisy voices disappeared like they had been muted. The soul of a living person has entered the underworld. The judges of the underworld have noticed your presence. Once I heard the last message, countless traces disappeared from my surroundings. The world turned around quickly and my body sank heavily. After a while, it felt like I had reached somewhere. It was hard to move, but I could guess what I would see when I opened my eyes. The air of the underworld was sticky. The sand at my fingertips were cold. Perhaps I was at the river of the underworld that Hades ruled. There was Acheron River flowing towards Hades' palace, and the underworld boatman Karen would be waiting for me. And, hey, wake up, what are you doing here? Something dull hit my head and it felt like oil was being poured on me. I took deep breaths as I sat up. Someone fumbled at my body, grabbing my neck and lifting me up. A newbie, I've never seen this face before. I had also never seen this face before. It was a man with a rough face and big muscles. The people in the surroundings were gazing at us. He looks fine, check his body. He might have brought something with him. Hey, don't touch. If he fell here, then he must be a mess. Have you forgotten the crazy person who came a while ago? That crazy jerk was a bit special. Are people like him common? I let the people to talk among themselves and looked around. It was a spacious place where a hot heat could be felt. Judging by the infestation of ghosts, this seemed to be the underworld. Frames made of the metal of the underworld were all over the place, and there were also furnaces for smelting metals. It was a factory-like atmosphere. The dead spirits were enslaved in the underworld and making something. At first glance, it seemed like a giant robot. What was this place? Hey, are you ignoring me now? I ignored his words and slowly twisted his arm that was holding me. What this strength? I couldn't waste time dealing with these small fries. I decided to check the hidden scenario that I had received. Hidden scenario, scenic walk. Category hidden. Difficulty A+. Clear conditions. Avoid the eyes of the judges and return safely to the ground. Time limit 12 hours. Compensation 10,000 coin. Failure, you will be forced to become a resident of the underworld. The scenario came out properly. The time that Dionysus said was accurate. Then why was I here? I should have fallen at Acheron River. This bastard, daring to look down on us. The big man was just about to punch my head when I heard a voice from behind me. Over there, what's going on? Did something funny happen? Haha, let me in on it as well. I'm bored to death because I've been working on the Gundam every day. Run away, run away. The people surrounding me started to shrink back. It was like herbivores meeting a predator. I looked to the side where the voice came from. It was a young man with a slim body and bangs covering his forehead. The young man discovered me and moved towards me. He peered closely at me and muttered with an aghast expression, "Why are you here?" I couldn't understand his words for a moment. This person knew me. "What, you can't recognize me? Have you really forgotten?" The young man lifted his bangs, and I recognized him. Damn it, come to think of it, the underworld was a place where the dead came. I hadn't even thought about it. Of course the person I killed here would come after dying. Ah, don't be so vigilant, aren't we both dead? The curious young man's eyes came closer. There was a mean and cruel look in them. I only saw him for a short time, but it was an unforgettable impression. The man smiled. "Yes, who the hell killed you? Please open your mouth." "Huh." The person who died in the first scenario, delusional demon Kim Namwoon, was in Hades' domain. Chapter 113, Three Promises 5. I looked around and discovered what this place was. Then I felt despair. Damn, there was no doubt, this place was. "You don't have to be so nervous. I won't bite if you get closer," Kim Namwoon told me, and I sighed. I was certain. It was Tartarus, the famous prison of the underworld. I glanced at the three-headed monster guarding the entrance of the prison. It was a Cerberus, a mythical monster dog. Two of its heads were dozing off while one head was acting as lookout. That son of a bitch, it should be a fourth-grade monster. There are even stronger ones downstairs. Kim Namwoon spoke like he was a guide to hell. He was right. This was how it was described in Ways of Survival. The strongest prisoners were trapped in the lower floors of Tartarus, meaning the size of the Cerberus became bigger with each floor you descended. Kim Namwoon chuckled and asked, "What do you think of hell?" I watched his attitude and opened my mouth. It was natural to be nervous when this psychopath had changed. "I have something to ask." "What is it?" "Is there anyone else beside you?" "There is, Audiobook." "I'm not talking about me." I closely watched the faces of the ghosts passing by. There were no faces that I recognized. For example, the disaster of questions or people like Song Minwoo. Kim Namwoon told me, "I don't know. I was the only one from the subway who came here." Hades' underworld was just one of the myriad worlds. The dead incarnations probably went to different underworlds according to their beliefs or random characteristics. It was the same for Myung Il-seng and Song Minwoo. I kept an eye on Kim Namwoon's expression as I asked, "Has a young woman come here recently?" "Young woman?" "She has white hair and an ponytail. She is really pretty." Kim Namwoon frowned for a moment before suddenly giggling. "Aha, now I understand." I listened in case he had seen Shin Yusong. "Audiobook, you died trying to save a woman. This is the problem with people like you, dying because of love. When did you write this story?" "Did you see her? Just answer that." "Of course I haven't seen her. How can I see your dear girlfriend?" As expected, Shin Yusung's soul hadn't come here. Perhaps she still hasn't crossed the Acheron River. She was a soul that came from another world. She would stay here for a while before being deported out of the world. All I had to do was get to her soul before then. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I was making something. Now Audiobook is going to make it with me." Kim Namwoon shook the ashes off his hand and pointed to something. "It is that thing. Doesn't it look like a Gundam?" I stared at it. The appearance resembled the figure of a giant. The huge weapon was finished off with a black, glossy metal, and it breathed slowly like a living creature. It was a weapon prepared for the most terrible war in the myths. The giant soldier. Hades was already preparing for Gigantamatia. It was different from the 12 gods of Olympus who played around, ate and fought using the excuse of preparing for Gigantamatia. Come to think of it, Hades was a constellation of the Greek myths, but he wasn't part of the Olympus nebula. Then a loud noise was heard from outside the entrance. Kim Namwoon grabbed my shoulder. "Come on, come with me." "Why?" "Can't you see the manager coming? There is a place where I am working. Go there and pretend to hammer. You have to move quickly if you are a newcomer." "Understood." I knew this much. If this place were really Tartarus's slave smithy, then I knew something about it. That's why I wasn't surprised by Tartarus. Kim Namwoon bit his lips. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I tried not to say it, but I couldn't help myself. Don't you have any thoughts about me? What thoughts? Kim Nam-woon thought about it for a moment before an eerie smile appeared on his face. Aha, are you afraid of me? You think I will get revenge, right? It would be abnormal if I wasn't scared. I killed the person who was a psychopath in the original novel, even more than you, Jong-hyuk. Now he suddenly acted friendly with me. I was strange if I wasn't scared. Haha, don't be afraid. Is it necessary to be wary when we have both already died? I also changed a lot after coming here. I had a lot of time to reflect. I was speechless. The delusional demon Kim Nam-woon reflecting was as impossible as Yoo Jong-hyuk becoming a girl. I knew it was a lie, but I still activated lie detection as a last courtesy for him. In any case, it was a skill that I acquired to use. You have confirmed that the statement is true. What? I was taken aback and stared at him. Kim Nam-woon cried out, I'm telling the truth, why don't you trust what I am saying? Aren't I living in atonement? I'm even thankful that you killed me. Why? A meal is served when it is time to eat. I can sleep when it is time to sleep. I don't have to go to school and won't be nagged at by my parents. It is a bit hot, but this place is the best. He was talking about Tartarus in hell. Besides, I can assemble the Gundam if I get bored. Isn't this good? He saw the giant soldier as a Gundam. It is thanks to you. I'm serious. Really, thank you. This guy was really crazy. The character Kim Nam-woon has a favorable impression of you. Damn, I couldn't not believe it when these system messages came up. Then come this way quickly, there is no time. I was led by Kim Nam-woon towards his workshop. His tools were placed along the workbench, and I could see the metal that the Gundam was made out of. It was a metal of the underworld. I felt that this was a setting for this person's Chuni disease. Kim Nam-woon said, they're coming, listen. The Cerberus started barking. G-R-R-R-R. My bones seemed frozen when I heard the sound. The administrator holding a whip and bat passed by the Cerberus and entered Tartarus. It was a subordinate of Hades wearing a black cloak. He didn't look as strong as the judges, but it wouldn't be good if I was caught. I stood and pretended to be hammering. Kim Nam-woon was giggling next to me. The administrator went to a platform at the entrance and cried out in a scratchy voice. Tell all the slaves on the first floor. There will be an unannounced inspection. Kim Nam-woon frowned and grumbled. These jerks are always the same. If they have nothing to do, then an inspection. However, the administrator's next words shut Kim Nam-woon up. There is an illegal intruder in the underworld. It is said that the soul of a living person crossed Acheron River. The ghosts had confused expressions. The administrator's words continued. The Great Death finds out about this. Terrible things will happen to you as well. This inspection is to find the impure intruder. It isn't a formal one, so don't be nervous. Everyone stand in place. Damn it, the progress was faster than I expected. In this case, Kim Nam-woon's complaints could be heard. This is really stupid. Even if a living person came here, why would they hide in Tartarus? When someone comes in, they can't go out, right? Ajasi. Yes, I replied one beat late. Kim Nam-woon watched me and muttered in a dumbfounded voice. I just want to ask you, perhaps they are talking about Ajasi. Right. Shit, Kim Nam-woon threw the hammer and laughed. Wow, it is amazing that you are a living person. I have been talking to someone alive. It was an expression where he didn't know to be angry or amused. I sighed and asked, is there anywhere to hide here? Shit, you want to hide in a prison. If you can't find anywhere, then hide in the Gundam over there. I looked at the giant soldier. I really could hide in there. The problem was that it was already close to a living creature. I was likely to be digested if I went inside. Has that been completed? Not yet. There is something wrong with the core. Are you really going to hide in there? No. Good thinking. Ajasi will disappear if you go inside there. I thought you wanted to live comfortably. I'm only good to people who are also dead. I'm sorry that we met when you are a living person. Ajasi, you should die soon and come back again. Kim Nam-woon spoke like I was in a terrible position. As we were talking, The administrator had neared this area. If the giant soldier had been completed, then I could have beaten the Cerberus and going straight to Hades' palace. Now that was impossible. Due to the effect of your exclusive attribute, the memories from the books you have read will increase. I desperately searched through the contents of Ways of Survival. Yu Zhanghyuk had visited the underworld in the mid to late regressions. What had he done at the time? Tell this to the king. I will take the great soldier. If you don't want to die, then tell everyone to get lost. Damn it, he was a crazy bastard. I liked it when I read it, but it didn't help my situation at all. Facing Hades judges head-on. This thing was possible for the regressor Yu Zhanghyuk. He had that type of power and opportunity. Yet No, wait a minute. Why couldn't I do it like him? The direction of my thoughts suddenly changed. Of course, I couldn't really act like Yu Zhanghyuk. However, there were many courageous ways that I could use. Why couldn't I be caught by the judges? Would I fail the hidden scenario and become a resident of the underworld? No, perhaps the judges would see Hades' behavior and try to destroy me. I was a fool. There was no need to worry if I solved one issue. The administrator finally came to our workshop. I faced him. Then the administrator asked, "Who are you?" "The one you are looking for." At this moment, a light shone in the administrator's eyes. The sharp sound of metal was heard from somewhere. I felt my body gradually freeze and my back was cold. If I looked back now, then Hades' judges would grab me by the neck. I resisted the freezing cold and opened my mouth. "You should think carefully before killing me. I didn't have Yu Zhanghyuk's strength, but I had something he didn't. If you kill me now, you will surely be defeated during Gigantomachia." The administrator's eyes shook, and the chill subsided for a moment. I didn't miss this moment and looked up at the giant soldier. "Tell the father of the rich knight. I know how to finish the giant soldier." A fearsome silence descended. The area around my neck was slowly freezing, but I didn't resist. This was a test. The ice came down from my neck to my shoulders and chest. I didn't panic. A little bit more, just a bit more. Finally, the cold reached the edges of my heart. Suddenly, it stopped like magic. Then a message appeared in my head. "The hidden scenario has been updated." After a while, I was guided by the judge towards Hades' palace. I looked back as I moved away and saw Kim Namwoon behind the Cerberus. I waved my hand towards Kim Namwoon, who stared blankly at me. "Stay well in hell, Namwoon." Chapter 114, 3 Promises 6. Kim Namwoon's last look remained with me, but I hadn't come to rescue him in the first place. Besides, why should I save him when he liked hell? The legless judge climbed the stairs quietly, like a ghost. Some of the symbolic bodies along the way looked at me with interested eyes. Were they constellations who dwelled in Hades' palace? I didn't know. It wasn't all constellations here. The judge seemed aware that I was drifting off and spoke without looking back. "You will lose your way if you don't follow along well." It was a scratchy voice that made me feel uncomfortable. Still, it was the correct advice. I looked at the judge before shifting my gaze to the ceiling and opening my mouth slightly. "Hey, can you hear me?" It was a small whisper that the judge couldn't hear. "I know you're listening." This wasn't Earth but Hades' underworld. I was curious. Did the Dakibai channel work here? Then a faint voice entered my ears. "Yes." There was a reply on the Dakibai communication. It was Bihyung's voice. "Are you a new Dakibai?" "Yes, I am the low-grade Dakibai Yunki. I am temporarily serving as an administrator while Bihyung is at the bureau." Dakibai Yunki. Perhaps it was the Dakibai who dealt with the compensation settlement for the fifth scenario during the day. I got straight to the point. "Why aren't you doing your work properly?" "The hidden scenario has updated, but why aren't you letting me know the contents?" "I came to this terrible place and should at least get compensation." That. It turned out that this Dakibai was a beginner. I could see how good Bihyung was at handling things. He just slightly lacked intelligence. The Dakibai was silent for dozens of seconds before stuttering. "Excuse me. What is it now? How do I update the scenario?" I was speechless for a moment. Why is a Dakibai asking a constellation? B. Bihyung told me to ask Kim Dokja Sesai if I'm not sure of anything. That bastard Bihyung made me an advisor. P. Please wait a moment. I'll ask another Dakibai about it. And what else? I'm sorry, but would you like to receive the backed-up indirect messages? It was the first time I was in this situation. I reluctantly nodded. I never expected a day would come when I missed Bihyung. Then messages exploded in my head. The constellation God of Wine and Ecstasy rejoices in your plight. The constellation, Prisoner of the Golden Headband, is excited about your adventure. The constellation, Secretive Plotter, is wondering how you will escape. The constellation, Demon-like Judge of Fire, prays that you can return safely to your comrades. As expected, the constellations were enamored with watching me. On the other hand, there were those feeling admiration. The constellation, One-Eyed Maitreya, admires the underworld. The constellation, Bald General of Justice, is greatly shocked by the appearance of the underworld. The constellation, Bald General of Justice, begins to doubt his religion. This was a spectacle for some constellations. Not all constellations could come to Hades' castle. 12,000 coins have been sponsored. I got 12,000 coins just from showing Hades' palace. It was a huge profit. This was like illegally filming private land. Some time passed. The silently walking judge finally opened his mouth. We've arrived. The door opened and a huge banquet hall appeared. The interior wasn't visible because it was dark. The judge disappeared and the door closed. A small light appeared in the middle of the dark hall. An oval antique table was waiting for me. There was a splendid statue that could be seen as a statue of the king. The table contained many dishes that stimulated the salivary glands. There was a woman looking at me at the end of the table. How interesting. A living soul has come to this castle. Furthermore, you also brought unpleasant observers. Today is a really special day. I immediately recognized who she was. In Hades' palace, there was only one existence who could occupy the seat of the hostess. I bowed and opened my mouth. It is an honor, Queen of the Darkest Spring. Queen of the Darkest Spring. She was Persephone, Hades' wife and the famous queen of the underworld. You know my modifier. You are a polite incarnation. You're overpraising me. The even more interesting thing is that your soul didn't shake when you heard my true voice. Come to think of it, I didn't feel much when I heard the truth voice of the constellations. Persephone was a constellation that was at least narrative grade. Due to the difference between us, my soul should have been damaged or destroyed the moment I heard her true words. Moreover, I previously heard the words of Kim Yushin, an upper-grade constellation. The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, is strongly activated. It was the first time that strongly was attached to the skill message. Perhaps my unconscious mind saw this situation as unrealistic due to the person I was meeting. Sit down, Incarnation Kim Dokja. I thanked her for the hospitality and sat across from her. Honestly, it was an unexpected favor. The aroma of sweet delicacies tickled my nose. I looked around, but only Persephone was sitting at the table. The king. The king is uncomfortable with your sudden visit. That's why I thought it would be better for me to talk to you. It ended up like this. I had expected it. There hadn't been a single incarnation who had met the three heads of Olympus. Besides, I didn't play the lyre well like Orpheus. Do you mind if I ask you a question? You can ask. Is this your true body? Of course it is a symbolic body. My true body isn't something that a human like you can withstand. I quietly gazed at Persephone's symbolic body. She looked like an old woman. It was a terrible hobby. Honestly, I had to think like this. Persephone smiled softly. You don't like older women like this. That isn't the problem. It didn't matter if she looked like a grandmother or grandfather. The problem was that she looked exactly like the grandmother on the subway in the first scenario. If you feel uncomfortable, then I can change to someone else. Persephone's appearance slowly changed into Yu Sanga's image. It wasn't the usual Yu Sanga. This Usanga wore a black Chinese dress and a garter belt, with seductive eye makeup. I turned red just staring at her face. Damn it, did she peep at my dreams? Just be the grandmother. Of course, Persephone didn't listen to me. There isn't much time, so get to the point. You do know. I heard a bit from my child, but it has more meaning to hear it directly from the children. Her child must mean Dionysus. I nodded and took a deep breath before explaining. I'm looking for a woman's soul. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm ready to make a trade. Soul, it is an outdated idea. Her eyelids lowered as she seemed to think of something. Before long, Persephone's long fingers moved and she started to slice the steak on her plate. I patiently waited. It proceeded slowly. The fork firmly held the meat as the knife moved slowly back and forth, slicing the meat with care. The red juices flowed out as a clean section was cut. The fork carefully moved the meat that it had pierced. Persephone made a face like she was worrying about whether to eat it or not. She seemed to have forgotten about me. I was about to open my mouth when she opened her mouth first. Of course, it was to eat the steak. There is no such thing as a soul in this world. Souls didn't exist. It was a matter that all modern physicists would agree on, but the problem was the person saying it was a god. It was a god of Olympus, who had long defended the logic of the souls. I said sarcastically, Plato and Aristotle would rise from the grave. They are constellations right now, so they wouldn't be in their graves. I didn't come here to play around. I'm not playing around. Incarnation Kim Dokcha. The soul doesn't exist. It is just an illusion created by humans who want the continuity of themselves. Then what about the people in the underworld? Aren't they souls? She pointed to the steak she just cut. They are like this. The steak slowly entered Persephone's mouth. She took her time chewing the meat like she was relishing it. Her red lips glistened enchantingly. Well, it is very special. Why don't you try it once? The same steak that she ate appeared in front of me. I looked down at it and said after a moment, I don't want to. Are you going to be rude? Yes, I'm really sorry, but I have to be rude. It would surely be tasty if I ate it. There were at least 12 pages in Ways of Survival describing the taste. However, at the end of a long description, the following sentence was written. It wasn't until the end of the regression that Yu Jonghyuk regretted eating the food. Those who ate the food of the underworld couldn't return to Earth. Persephone seemed to read my mind and laughed. The people of the underworld aren't as terrible as you think. Most of the known theories are false. You can go out of the underworld at any time as long as you have the permission of the king. It is a similar concept to a career soldier in your world. The military life was the most terrible memory in my life. Is that so? Don't the males in your country say that they should stay in the army? That's why I thought it wasn't a big deal. I guess it was a misunderstanding. I didn't know why the goddess of another country knew so much about Korean mean. Persephone continued speaking. Incarnation Kim Dokcha, you will be treated better than you imagined. The person who advised me to be a professional sergeant told me something similar. Did he recommend a steak like me? For example, the steak currently in front of you. Do you know what will happen if you eat it? I can taste the juices of a cow. You can become a sword master right now. I thought I heard wrong for a moment. Sword master. It was a higher realm that only returnees who left this world could reach after hard work. The pasta next to it. You can become a great magician if you eat it. This pasta. The soup, it can make you a SSS-grade hunter. This, it was a wonderland instead of a hell. I couldn't help gulping. I could get power to overcome the current Yu Jonghyuk if I just ate this meat. You still won't eat. I slowly moved my fork and picked up a piece of the steak. The moment my fork pierced the meat, strange scenes flashed in front of my eyes. It was the memory of a man training alone with a sword. I can't be weak. I have to learn the sword. I will strive to become stronger. I finally did it. I did it. There were only a few scenes. I was surprised and put down the fork. This wasn't a dead cow that I was poking. This is. Persephone nodded. Yes, this small piece of meat. It is the soul that humans believe in. She once again ate the meat. I belatedly understood why Persephone said I could become a sword master if I ate this. I stated, it contains the memories of the sword master. Memories? No, to be more precise. She paused for a moment to pick her words. It is a story. The sight of her licking her lips gave me goosebumps. It is the story that is the favorite food of all constellations. Chapter 115, 3 Promises 7. I got goosebumps as I heard the words that came out of the constellation's mouth. Those who were crazy about stories ate the stories. This was the nature of constellations. Death is the end of the story. Just as a cow that has become a steak can't revive, the dead can't revive. Their story is finished. I know there are exceptions. They are false folklore. There are no exceptions. It was a lie. There was a saying for this in Greek mythology. Can you swear on the Styx River? She naturally couldn't swear. For the first time, anger filled Persephone's expression. The soul you believe in is just a crude lump of a story. I want that crude lump of a story. A person who looks backwards in the underworld will feel regret. You need to understand that the time has passed. If she was taking such a hard line, then I had to use the trump card I had saved. Queen Nim, time isn't necessarily about going forward. I thought you knew that. At this moment the world turned gray. A vast killing intent filled the whole hall. For a moment, I felt that I had seen Persephone's essence. My mouth didn't open, but I wanted to scream. Souls didn't exist. Wasn't it my soul that was feeling creeped out right now? Sweat dripped down my back as the killing intent disappeared. Persephone smiled like nothing had happened. Hoo-hoo, how interesting. As expected from the child that Olympus calls a singularity. Her smile was subtly different from before. I could feel it without speaking. From now on, I could get to my goal. I know it isn't just that. I have seen the giant soldier in development in Tartarus. If you make a deal with me, you can shorten the time it takes to use it. That is the story. Gigantomachia is an important issue, but the giant soldier can be completed on time without your help. I was speechless for a moment. She was a truly formidable goddess. It was Persephone's turn. However, I might consider this deal if you tell me how you know the information. It is difficult. To be honest, I don't know how to explain it. I felt sorry for Shin Yusung, but this wasn't possible. My plans for the future were finished if I revealed this. Persephone gazed into my eyes to gauge the truth of my answer. Then she muttered in a strange voice. Indeed, black, 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 black. What? The next second, the messages of the constellations exploded in my ears. The constellation prisoner of the golden headband is doubting his ears. The constellation demon-like judge of fire's eyes have widened. The constellation scribe of heaven points out the queen's rashness. The constellation secretive plotter is immersed. Persephone frowned. The uninvited guests should stay quiet. I asked with a shocked expression. What did you say just now? Ah, it isn't a big deal. I was really confused. I couldn't pronounce it properly, but her words sounded like filtered information. It generally happened with information not made public yet in the scenario. However, the filtering wasn't triggered if a person already knew the information. It didn't make sense. There was information I didn't know despite reading all of Ways of Survival. No, maybe. I'm sorry, but I'll end the entertainment here. I have no reason to make the deal with you. I can use other methods to find out your information. The light reflected in a creepy manner off the knife. I didn't feel like knowing why. I keep thinking this, but you look delicious. Persephone suddenly approached and grabbed my chin. I refrained from pushing back my chair and smiled. Will you be able to handle the storm that will occur if you harm an incarnation in the middle of the scenario? HRMM, you are disrespectful. Do you think I can't afford this probability? The constellations watching me also won't tolerate it. Persephone laughed. Do you think the king will be afraid of such trivial constellations? Of course, Hades deserved to be this arrogant. Still, the word trivial shouldn't be used in such a way. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, swings his rod as if he has been provoked. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, pulls out her sword with cold eyes. The constellation, secretive plotter, is excited and encouraging the situation. Persephone also pulled out her power. I see, do you want to try it now? The ceiling of the hall started to fill with dark clouds. Red and blue sparks occurred like a thunderstorm, and white flames spread throughout the banquet hall. This was the battle between constellations. A huge aura rose from Persephone's symbolic body. I would explode if this continued. I calmly opened my mouth. You said you liked stories. The atmosphere of the constellations softened for a moment at my words. Then how about a different deal? The constellation, secretive plotter, is listening to your words. Persephone stared at me. If you help me, I will show you the most interesting story in the world. A story that is incomparable to the steak you just ate. Does that mean I can eat it? If you like gourmet meals, I think no more meals are needed. This story will be enough. Persephone noticed what I was trying to say and laughed. Are you planning to take the money without letting me eat? I will let you have a taste. However, if you eat me now, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Why? You would think it would have been more delicious if I hadn't eaten it. Persephone looked intrigued. How can you be so sure? I can stand against time-defying beings without a sponsor. Persephone's eyes shook lightly. I have destroyed a returnee and prevented disasters without the help of the god of this world. And so far, only 5 scenarios have passed. Persephone bit her lower lip in a tantalizing manner. As a living soul, I entered the underworld and encountered you like this. Aren't you curious about what I will do in the future? You speak very well, but... Persephone lowered her gaze and continued. It doesn't seem to be a deal. You can call it a courtship. Huh? I smiled. I'm serious. I'll show you stories you have never seen before and stories that you can't endure wondering about. Maybe it was wrong to think about making deals with constellations. They were those bound by eternity. They couldn't make serious deals with trivial incarnations. If so, it was better to say ridiculous and far-fetched things. At the very least, it would make an impression. Like all myths, the gods were more moved by a handful of sincere words than 100 words of deceit. In fact, Persephone's expression wasn't bad at all. HRMM, it is difficult. This is why males are. Of course, it isn't courting you but courting the father of the rich knight. Persephone's eyes widened at my words and she burst out laughing. She stepped away from me and slowly crossed her legs to sit on the table. Her coy eyes swept over my body. How interesting. It was frightening that she was posing like this with Sanga's body. Persephone stared into the dark air and slowly closed her eyes. It was only a moment, but it felt like hours of heavy silence. I was about to choke on the weight of the silence when she spoke. I'll give you a task. It finally came. You want to show me an interesting story. If you succeed, I will let you find the soul you want. Then a system message popped up. A new hidden scenario has been activated. There were a few myths that came to mind when I heard her words. That reminded me, Hercules performed something called the 12 tasks. Persephone's eyes shone. I want to see it once. The children of Olympus often do it, but I haven't been able to watch it since meeting my king. What task is it? Your task is to cut off the head of the snake. The snake? Do you mean the snake with multiple heads? I asked in a slightly timid voice. It was because that snake was a second-grade monster. Persephone shook her head. I'm not talking about the Hydra. Only Hercules can kill it. The snake you have to kill is somewhere else. However, I can't go far because of the scenario. Don't worry, the snake will be wherever you go. Persephone lightly flicked her fingers and a screen popped up in the empty air. There was the message that the channel was connected, and I realized what the screen was. Was this how the constellations watched us? A vast green forest filled the entire screen. It wasn't long before I figured out what this place was. It was the stage for the 6th scenario that was about to start. Wait a minute. What was this? Ajasi, pull out some of the wood over there and make a place to rest. Aren't you good at that? I'm not good at clearing land, dumb female. I stared at the screen. The two people were the missing Gong Pildu and Han Suyong. How was this possible? The sixth scenario hadn't started yet. I could feel Persephone staring at me. How about it? Do you want to try it? It might be hard, but it is a worthy task. I recovered my spirit. I could sense the snake that Persephone wanted me to kill. I slowly nodded. The incarnation left, and darkness came to the hall. Persephone remained alone, staring at the rest of the feast before opening her mouth. Clear it away, it doesn't taste good. Hands appeared in the darkness and quickly took away the plates. Persephone watched as the food went straight into the garbage can. Sword Master, SSS-grade hunter, 10th circle magician. She was already tired of these delicious tastes. Then a voice came from the darkness. Persephone, why did you do that? It was like the space itself was talking. Oh, my shy husband is finally talking. I asked you why. Hades, you wanted this. I never said that. Persephone stared into the darkness. You rarely like incarnations. I think you particularly like that child. Am I mistaken? Do you think so? It was because you didn't kill him when he entered the underworld. The darkness was silent for a moment. You always felt envious that Zeus had Hercules. This time, I read a bit of your mind. Persephone looked down at her hands for a moment before making a fist. Honestly, it was amazing. There were some constellations I couldn't afford to go against. They are all chasing after one incarnation. A screen appeared in the darkness. However, the channel's signal was unstable and the video didn't appear immediately. The darkness gazed at the screen and opened its mouth. There will soon be signs of the later days. The later days. Persephone listened to these words and opened her mouth with a mixture of distrust, doubt, and anxiety. Will the later days really come? Perhaps. You will still be with me at that time, right? Hades didn't answer. The warm darkness just carefully wrapped around her symbolic body. Persephone felt the darkness and said, I am very excited to see what story that kid will show me. Her eyes watched as Kim Daksha moved through the darkness to leave the underworld. Kim Daksha moved forward without looking back. Persephone laughed lightly, as if he was cute.